All right.
Psychopaths.
So, Psychopaths, episode 17 through 20. This is...
I feel like I can just like lounge on this whole area now.
I know. We're like, oh, these figures are mine now. Actually, I ordered that saber, so it's fine.
Nice.
Yeah. So, wow, that was a lot of information. In Psychopaths, I mean, like, just there was so much going on. So
yes, also 4 episodes.
4 episodes to cover, so we're going to go through this pretty quickly, but I have some thoughts, and also I'm still sad about Kagari. Rip.
Yeah.
Okay. Australia's card says, as Kozoburo was going on about attaining omnipotence and becoming a god, the anime shows the creation of Adam, a fresco painting originally painted on the Sistine Chapel's ceiling from 1508 to 1512 by the famous Michelangelo. I feel like it's pronounced Michelangelo.
Touching, right? Right?
Yes, it's the,
It's like the finger.
Like this. I don't like that because that means one of us was God, and I'm not comfortable with that. This painting reflects on how the Sibyl system gives Kozoburo new life, and how Kozoburo is like the Sibyl system, literally. However, Kozoburo alone will never be equal to the collective consciousness of the system, which is further enforced as Makishima mercilessly breaks his android body. Kozoburo begs for life like a human would, showing how he doesn't possess the godly omnipotence he just bragged about before. So basically, the chief is just a vessel for a variety of consciousnesses.
Yes.
Who make up the Sibyl system. And this blew my mind. I've not seen Psychopath before. I like when it was like, oh yeah, the Sibyl system is just like a bunch of psychopaths. No pun intended. Like actual sociopaths. Because that's pretty much, at least my interpretation of criminally asymptomatic people is that's like a textbook sociopath.
Yeah.
And so all of them are just like, we're the most logical and objective people because we know we have no feelings. I'm like, oh my God, what?
I was surprised that that particular brain was, turned on, I guess, when he was talking to Makishima. Because he's like, remember me? I'm like,
well, that's why they sent him, because they knew each other from the past.
But the thing the fact that they can send different brains?
Yeah. Well, like you plug into the body. You like basically download your consciousness into the body. So he inhabits the chief's body, and the chief just like no longer exists as an individual. It's like an entity that they inhabit. I found it fascinating that the whole idea of the Sibyl system was an objective, piece of well, not piece of software, but like this computer, essentially, to just put it in the simplest terms, but this data can objectively judge people. That was the whole concept. That's what sold people on it was, it's not people, it's not like subjective, it's just this objective entity.
Like judge.
Yeah. That has been programmed to judge with no emotion. And then it turns out it was just people the whole time.
Yeah. And the crazy ones at that, exactly.
Yeah, I'm like... anyway.
There were so many brains in that room, by the way.
There were too many brains.
I'm like, oh my God.
Like, just like
how many years were they collecting, to be honest?
Yeah, there's 247 people currently making up the Sibyl system.
That's right, yeah.
And 200 work at any one time, I guess. Okay, so continuing with Australia's card. Lastly, Makishima mentioned how Kozoburo reminded him of the Balnabarbian, whatever, doctor from Gulliver's Travels. This doctor insisted that by cutting the brains of political party leaders in half, exchanging these halves with the other, and sewing them back together, the two half-brains would debate between themselves and become more moderate as a result. Which is, like, not at all how that works.
That's not true.
Like... That's just not how that works. An idealistic thinking that those who follow politics would approve of. I still don't approve of it because it's just not how it works.
Yeah, no.
The sarcasm kicks in when you realize that this project is one of numerous projects designed to fix the mismanagement of Balnabarbia by increasing the efficiency of everyday activity significantly. However, none of these projects were brought to perfection, and the whole country lay in waste in the meantime. In other words, the Sibyl system just made the world worse, as we've seen this far in the anime. So...
Yes.
About 5 episodes ago, I was fully on board with just a revolution. Like, I have been so on board with just overthrowing the Sibyl system before I found out any of this. Before I found out the truth about it, that it was run by sociopaths, criminally asymptomatic, and people who are idiosyncratic with society. 5-6 episodes ago, I was like, we should really overthrow the Sibyl system. And now I'm like, why aren't you guys letting him do... like, Makishima's terrible. He's a murderer. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, like, I kind of think he has a point. I just think maybe you should let him finish the revolution and then capture him. Just let him finish. Just let him push
just a little bit.
I don't know. I'm so on board with the revolution. It's not even funny. Okay, moving on to episode 18.
Yep. By the way, that's a really great analogy. Oh, not analogy. Just an analysis. Like all those and Sistine Chapel stuff. I didn't catch any of that stuff.
I've never read Gulliver's Travels. Me neither. I never had to, and so I just never did, which is not true. I mean, like, I've read other books that I didn't have to read. It's just not to say I don't read books. Yeah, I just haven't read that one. So
I never picked that stuff up.
It's nice.
But I'm glad you guys did.
Yes. Okay. Australia's Cardigan, who is basically the MVP of the Psychopaths Watch Party. We have lots of MVPs, but I feel like Australia's is always coming through with the analysis. So Australia says, a promise written on water. Just as water distorts your reflection, Kogami's promise to remain a detective rather than regressing into a dog can be interpreted differently than Akane expected. Akane wanted Kogami to retain his dignity and not throw away his integrity and morals, but in order to be a detective, Kogami has to go rogue. The Sibyl system was clearly more interested in pursuing further perfection in its operations than in protecting the safety of the people, which is its prime directive. Kogami understood that this hypocrisy would never allow Makishima to be prosecuted fairly, so out of fear of regretting his inaction, should he remain an enforcer, he betrayed Akane. The scenes leading up to Kogami's defection from Division 1 were very moving due to the somber music. I so agree. That scene was so good. Where, like, she's reading his
letter.
His letter, and while we may be rooting for Kogami finally moving out to kill the psychopath, we are also sad that such a righteous character must become a criminal to carry out justice in this twisted world. So I do disagree with that because I don't think Kogami is a righteous person. I think he's morally gray, and that's what I like about him. I think Kogami, first and foremost, wants to solve crimes. He wants to be a detective.
Yeah, but that's what he wanted to be since he was a kid.
Right. Yeah. But Akane's version of being a detective and Kogami's are different. Akane is very justice-driven and virtue-driven, and she's driven by what is right. Kogami it has a lot of different motivations. In this case, the old guy, I forget his name. For some reason, I can't. No. Whatever the old man one is. I'm just going to call him Ji-chan. So he was saying that this is a man's pride. Kogami is driven by his pride. He can't not solve this because what would he do to, like, how would he live with himself? Number one, because Makishima is going to kill people, and also, like, he knows he can do it, so he's going to go do it. And so I think that Kogami, like, for me, I'm not disappointed in Kogami. I'm like, yeah, go. What?
Do your thing.
I must be bad or something. I would not be in Akane's shoes. I'd be like, yeah, can I come with? Like,
no, I think it's about time. I mean, like, Kogami has always been conflicted, especially with I'm really bad with these names. The other Ginoza.
Ginoza.
Like, they always butt heads, right?
Yeah.
And like,
I hate Ginoza.
It's gotten to the point where, like, the sociopath is out. He's trying to, like, scheme for the next big thing. And the big scheme he had before was already, like, huge. He started right across the city.
Yeah.
And then, like, all these helmets, and it was that's as almost as big as you can get. So whatever he's scheming next, he has to take them down, like, immediately.
And I mean, yeah, if he wants to do his job as it was prescribed. I don't like Ginoza. I think Ginoza. He's weaselly to me. He's
maybe he looks like a weasel.
He doesn't have. He's everything that Kogami is not. They're very good foils to each other, in that Kogami is driven by his own will in a lot of ways, and a lot of people who live under the Sibyl system are not. Ginoza is the ultimate bureaucrat in that he is a very good cog in the machine, as we see when the chief is holding the Dominator against Kogami, and she makes it lethal mode, and then Akane is just like, I got this, and shoots him with the stun gun or whatever.
God,
I was so nervous.
Yeah.
I was like, I hope Megan Murphy's okay. But I think like he is very good at being a pawn for others, it seems, because he doesn't have his own compass. His compass
follower.
is what has been given to him, and that is why I don't like him at all, but he's a very good reflection of the things that Kogami lacks. Like, Kogami does lack discipline.
The system made him a follower, so being an inspector and leading these other
The enforcers?
Enforcers, yes. Sorry. He's definitely not fit for that role.
Yeah.
And that's what we can see right now.
I'm going to move on just because we're running out of time. Nettle Del Toro says, apparently shooting Kogami is Akane's way of leveling up as an inspector. 2 birds with 1 stone, though, because by doing that, she also smacked Ginoza out of his dumbfoundedness, not only from that very moment, but hopefully in the big picture as well. Here's to Akane. Yes. I love that scene because she shows that she has what it takes to have free will. And later, I forget if it's episode 19 or 20, but we do have that flashback to Akane. She got to choose her life because she was good for anything. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But she, like Kogami, didn't become a follower because of the Sibyl system. She is evolving past that. And I just loved that moment where she found another way to deal with the situation.
Yes.
Moving on to episode 19, Tyler DeBoer.
Tyler DeBoer.
Would you like to do the honors?
Yeah, sure. So Tyler DeBoer says, final stretch, here we go. Kogami's gone to take the law into his own hands. Even his new weapon, a normal pistol, shows this. A dominator requires Sybyl's judgment. Oh, yeah. So, he has a normal pistol now. One thing I find interesting is during Kogami and Saiga's breakfast is the imaging of Makishima also being there. The fact that Kogami is able to imagine what exactly Makishima would say and respond shows just how close the 2 ways of thinking have been and gotten over time. Yeah, that was... I
like that scene a lot because it shows that they are more alike each other than he wants to admit, and his former professor even says that basically, like, you guys are alike. And Kogami doesn't like that knowledge, but it's very clear that they have a lot in common, and I find that interesting. It's sort of like any good rivalry. Like, I don't know, it almost because Makishima reminds me of the Joker a lot. It felt like Batman and the Joker a lot.
Yeah. But yes, he continues. Definitely a scary thing in this episode is Makishima's new plan. By taking out the food supply, he'll cause a domino effect that will destroy the Sibyl system. The scary part isn't this. It's the real-world application of the hyper oats. By depending on only one source, should someone take it out, everything involved will fall about. We're living in an age where we're heading towards this in life. One such example is our computerization of many aspects of our lives. By having many things be based on electronics, the internet, and computers in general, should anyone find a way to destroy our electronic infrastructure, we as society will be crippled.
That's the basis for Y2K. For anybody who is any amount of years younger than me, because I am barely old enough to remember Y2K, there was this huge thing where society was really starting to rely on computers more and more. But when they were programming a lot of these computers, they didn't account for the years rolling over. So everything would be like 99 and whatever in the coding. I don't know if it like had to do with the binary or whatever it was. Whatever in the back end of the computer, they didn't account for like it being 00. So it was going to totally screw everything up. And there was this huge panic, like everything's going to be on fire. There's a Simpsons episode about it. Just like everything's going to be destroyed because we were relying on computers so much. And even now I think like if I lost my phone,
oh man,
there's a couple numbers I know, and then I would not be able to call anybody else. That happened to a friend of mine. We were at a bar. She went outside. She was texting, and just as she was texting on the street, some guy on a bike just took her phone out of her hand and kept going.
Whoa.
And so we come out of the bar, and she's like, can I use someone's phone to call an Uber because I can't get home now?
Holy crap.
Like, we rely on technology a lot. So Tyler has a point, and the point is, I think this is true for a lot of things in Psychopaths. It's closer to home than you might think it is. I mean, it's very not far future, but it's future sci-fi. But it's obviously written by modern people and therefore has connections to the modern age.
No, totally. All right. He continues. As an old saying goes, you shouldn't put all our eggs in one basket. Should any society, whether real or fake, put too much of their lives in one place, any little distortion will greatly impact their lives. With the calm before the storm done, we're heading for our final confrontation with Makishima, and Akane is about to learn the truth. Ooh.
I want to reiterate, I don't think he should stop Makishima. Am I a bad person? I really think that it would probably be best for everybody if they just destroyed the Sibyl system. And the Sibyl system has this conversation with Akane where it's telling her the truth.
Yeah.
And because it's like, oh, you won't tell anyone because you value the Sibyl system. The Sibyl system gives you the things that you value most. It gives you order, and it gives, the best chance for everyone's happiness. And of course, all of that talk is just alarm bells in my head because there's lots of books about this. So we've been here before in this, like, we made a utopia, and it's like, just kidding, it's not. So I don't know. I really hate the Sibyl system, and I'm just really in favor of just overthrowing it completely. I mean there's probably a more graceful way to do it, because society would be totally a wreck, like just a total wreck if you didn't do it. Like, we're gradually gonna uninstall this. I don't know what do you do without the Sibyl, or how withdraw plan is. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking about when I was watching this episode. Is like, what is a better way? What is a less catastrophic way to dismantle the Sibyl system? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, when they captured Makishima, they didn't even have anyone to prosecute him.
Well, yeah, and then
there's no system in place.
Akane's like, we'll have to assemble a judge and prosecutors and a jury, and I'm like, is anyone even trained in the law anymore? Like, there's no law. The law is the Sibyl system. They don't have to know the law. Yeah. The dominators tell them the law, or the dominators do the sentencing. Rather, the dominators are the judges. So
an executioner.
Yeah, judge, jury, and executioner. Ayo. So I feel like it sounds like other countries besides Japan have normal societies. They kept the Sibyl system tells her that they kept it basically trade secrets, and they have really strict border security, and they don't import any food, which is why the hyper oats thing is such a big deal. So they're very isolated from the rest of the world, it sounds like, which leads me to believe that there's other countries have more human systems in place, I guess.
Yeah. The Sibyl system is technically human.
That's a good point. But bad choice of words.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. If the Sibyl system probably going to fail, I'm sure they can recover. Yeah. Yeah.
And then to wrap it up, Tyler DeBoer says, for episode 20, the truth is revealed to Akane. That's what we were just talking about. With Makishima off getting his entry to the facility, which is the Hyper Oats, the granary, murderer dude cutting out his eyeballs and skinning his hand. Okay, so that was so brilliant. Where, hey, the granary probably has old-timey biometric scans, not cymatic scans. So I'm going to take his eyes and fingertips. So one of those is going to get me in. I was like, that's some thinking. Good job, Makishima. I don't know. I'm sort of rooting for him.
I just cut off his hand. No.
Yeah, rather than having to carry individual fingers, you might. Yeah.
Anyway,
Akane is led to the base of the Sibyl system. The fact that Akane is angered by the system's murder of Kagari and calls it useless shows just how much she's grown from the wet behind the ears meat girl in the beginning. I like that too, where she's like, did Kagari die here? And she just faces them head on.
Yeah.
When Akane calls out the Sibyl system and demands the criminal minds in it be judged for their actions, and it responds with how its contributions outweigh their previous crimes, it reminded me a little of USA's Operation Paperclip. At the tail end of World War II, Tyler, you're speaking my language.
Hey.
America went into Germany and captured their high-level scientists. Bringing them back to America, they were given the choice to rot in jail for their crimes or help American society advance using their knowledge and have their crimes overlooked. It was this that allowed science to advance in the U.S., doing such feats as being most of what got America to the moon. Yeah, it's one of those.
That's interesting.
I mean, there's a lot of scientific things that originated from really terrible origins. A lot of human experimentation, for example. I just read this article about how hormonal birth control was originally forced on Puerto Rican women. And they didn't tell them what it was for. And the side effects at the time in the 50s and 60s were so bad that nobody wanted to take it anymore. They also lied to women saying it was a fertility drug. But it's one of those things that a lot of people are really happy to have. It helps with a lot of different medical issues. So a lot of medical advancements are from terrible origins. Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense. But Operation Paperclip is a great example of a trade-off. I feel like that happened a lot it happened a lot more in the past. I mean, obviously there's things we don't know about that are going on now that we'll probably find out about in 10 years and go, oh.
Whoops.
But yeah, the concept of we can either punish you or we can use you to our advantage is very morally gray, and I find it very interesting. Yeah. But the Sibyl system basically decided for itself that it was useful. So that's the difference, is like it wasn't somebody being like, oh, you could help us advance. It was like a bunch of sociopaths going, you know what? We did some bad stuff, but like we're really helping society. So, I mean, it's like balancing out. Like, so,
I'm actually not even sure, like, they don't really go deep into who even started the Sibyl system, right?
No.
Really, or how it came to be like, oh, hey, if we collected these groups of people, this would work.
Yeah, they didn't really go into that. Anyway, back to Tyler. Akane's done some soul searching and has come out of the other side a better, stronger person. She's now flat out basically threatening the Sibyl system. She's taken the leadership of our group and is now the critical thinker. Good old Kogami left our team Makishima's whereabouts. With him there too, all the pieces are in place for our finale. Yes. It's sad that we only have one watch party left for Psycho-Pass. This is a great series, and it's been so insightful. Anyway, here's to the next time's finale. So,
cheers to that.
Yeah, the next time we'll be watching episodes 21 and 22, and that is the last two episodes. We're only doing season 1 of Psycho-Pass, so after that we'll have a new watch party. I do want to wrap up, though, about Akane's growth, and this is what I was hinting to earlier, is when she has that series of flashbacks where she's talking to people, and she's talking to her friends, she's talking to Kogari about how... when she gets her results from the final exam or whatever.
I like that flashback.
Yeah, it was such a really well done flashback. But she gets the results, and it's like, it didn't make it any easier for me because Sibyl is supposed to pick the thing that's best for me. But if I can do anything, then I am back at square one, basically. Yeah. And Kogari basically tells her that, or told her in the past that is how it used to be. That is how people used to be, and he didn't think he'd meet anyone who still thought that way, who still struggled with what they wanted to be. And she says that, she's happier for it. Yeah. And I mean, that was the most poignant moment for me about, Sibyl system is all about, on paper, all about giving people their maximum potential for happiness by saying this is what you would be most happy doing because you are best at it and you like it, or whatever the test entails. Yeah. But the truth of it is sometimes the journey is more important than the destination, and that's what makes you happy.
Experience.
Yeah, and the experience of struggling to figure out what you want to be, or who you want to be, or who you are, is more rewarding than just being told, well, you'd be really good at office jobs. There you go. Go be happy now. Yeah. And I liked that they really drove that home in this episode.
Oh, yeah. No, especially this episode for me is when Akane definitely hit that, like, optimum spot for, like, just being the ideal inspector. Like, when she started breaking down the scene back at the Hyper Oats dude's office.
Oh, yeah. She totally channels Kogami, where she's like, yeah, exactly. Oh, Kogami wouldn't have done it this way if not for a reason. So I'm going to find... So, yeah, she's just grown so much. And I do think... It's one of those things that, we've talked a lot about, like, personal stuff with this watch party. And so if you are at a place where you are struggling with, like, not knowing who you are, your identity, or what you want to do with your life, if, a lot of people are kind of in college or just getting into college, that's a really hard time. And a lot of times you don't know what you want to major in, and you don't know what you want to do with your life. But it's okay, because the whole point is figuring it out.
Yes.
The process of figuring it out being the part that's valuable. So I hope that realization helps some people. This has been a very heavy show, but there's also a lot of bright spots in it, and that was one for me. And just seeing her growth and seeing her be strong and confident in her abilities and
Yes.
and just good at what she does, and not knowing that this was going to be for her, but following her dream, and it's a path that took her somewhere really great for herself, was just really, really awesome.
Akane is one of the probably strongest female protagonists in anime that I know, honestly.
Yeah, really well done character.